Kevin is the founder of Wealth Builders, author, director of the SAS Alliance, all-round kind of good guy, knows a thing or two about investing, knows a hell of a lot more about wealth and what helps build and create and sustain wealth. Kevin knows what happens when the money runs out, and he is going to help us sort of navigate that rather treacherous part of the investment process. So without any further ado, Kevin, I think it is over to you. Good evening and welcome.
Hello, and thank you very much for the kind invitation. And, thanks also for giving me a perfect platform for continuation of the theme of the word trust. So I'm going to mention the word trust many times during the course of my time with you. At least 3 different occasions I'm going to talk about trusts. One of them is a legal trust. The other is how you get trust with third parties, but also how you can build incredible relationships so that you've got a document that secures your trust. I'm going to give you a free template, something you can copy, something you can see that hundreds of developer partners that I've worked with have used to secure private funding. So I'm hoping that you'll get some value. So I'm just going to jump on quickly share my screen. And you should let me know if you can see the Wealth Builders logo come up. Just a quick thumbs up. Perfect. So as Howard was saying, I'm the founder of Wealth Builders. Our passion is to really help people become financially independent. And I want to just touch on a foundational point, that it's people who finance property. When you think about it, when you get money from property, and we know everybody runs out of ambition before they run out of money. That's just the way it is. Where does the money start? Well, if you get money from a bank, where does it start? People. But they make the money on the intermediation. If you get money from a bridging company, where does it start? It's people. So what I'm trying to show you is that if you can build relationships with people, and this is my area of expertise. Looking at my face, I'm not like Kieran, I don't need a haircut, but I have got a wizened expression, forged and formed by many, many years of wisdom. And one of my expertise areas is the hearts and minds of investors. And I'm going to show you how you can be completely investable. But just a quick word, just to, not quite showing off, but at least let you know I'm a credible individual. I've got 3 individual books on different subjects, but rather than talk about that, I'm going to show you 3 different sources of funds. Money you've probably forgotten. Number 2, money from others and how to get it. And number 3, if you have read anything by Seth Godin, you'll know he's also written a book called The Purple Cow. Now, The Purple Cow is a great book, and it talks about being outstanding, right? So in other words, if you look at a cow in a field, you go, hang on a minute, was that? You'd actually stop in your tracks. And I look for outstanding people to work with me. So if you are interested in that, then you can connect with me in due course. What I've found to be true is, you talked about Mr. Covey as well, so you're lining it all up for me, Howard. It's perfect. Stephen Covey wrote this line, seek first to understand before being understood. And the essence of this then is to build and nurture relationships. Unlike what I normally see, you did some great networking today, but this is what I normally see in a networking meeting, is somebody is talking at 90 miles an hour and somebody's trying to interpret that and work out what it means to them at 30 miles an hour. Who do you reckon's who? If you were in a networking meeting overhearing a fly on the wall, somebody's got a deal, they want to get the message across, and somebody's got some money, but they're quietly trying to keep themselves protected. Who's who? Well, I think it wouldn't take too long to realize the 90 miles an hour is the person who's talking rat-tat-tat, talking about the deal. They speak the language of the deal. The deal, the deal, the deal. It's the best thing I've ever seen. I think I might do an HMO, but I'm not quite sure about Article 4 in this area. The market's a bit toppy at the moment, but I'm thinking I could go into commercial to resi, although airspace looks good right now, but I need the money in 3 weeks' time. I know that's a more comedic way of looking at it, but in fact, that's what plays out. And what generally happens is two people don't connect. There's lots of energy, but there's no connection. And the lack of trust is the key thing that marks the difference between those who raise money from joint ventures and those who don't. And I've got a framework for it. I stole it. It's this. It's a great story, the elements of a story from another book called Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. And it's a great book, and it really boils it down. Think of any great movie that you love, anything at all, Shawshank Redemption, or I don't know, Forrest Gump, anything you could think of at all. There's probably a theme in that story. And we love stories. It's built into the DNA of humans, it's built into our culture, it's built into our history. And a lot of people say to me, you know, oh, I've been told by my trainer, my property educator, that I should just tell people what I do. Well, how much better would it be if you could deeply connect with people about you telling them a story about why what you have to offer solves their problem, not just solves your problem? And here's the story. Every great story has a character. I like to call the character the hero. The hero is a problem. Now, your problem might be raising money, but if you're thinking about investors, that's not their problem. They've got the money. They got a different challenge. They got a different problem. The hero meets a guide, and the purpose of the guide, think about it, all the good movies you've seen, there's always a guide trying to keep them on the right track, who shows them a plan that asks them to take action, that then solves the problem and avoids the pain. Now, in my experience in working with hundreds and hundreds, now I've probably done more joint ventures than I can count, more than 500. And I think that's probably more than most people. So I know a thing or two about the stories that I hear, and I'm going to help you craft a great story. But the thing that is important to understand is you are not the hero in your story. You are the guide in your story. And here's how you think about being the guide. So I meet investors all the time, and they've got a problem. So let's have a look at this. Investors have got money in the bank, or they've got money in pensions or ISAs or whatever, and they're getting returns for which they are disappointed. They're not happy with volatility in the stock market. They're not happy with cash returns. They're not happy with all sorts of things. They may not even know they're unhappy. They just know there's a deep sense of disconnection going on. They probably don't know they're getting an average of 6% on their pension and paying 2% in charges and getting a net 4%, which is what most people retire on, by the way, in this country, is a 4% return on their pension. Would you be happy with a 4% return on your investment? I mean, you guys do property. I heard you talk about in your networking. Now, you don't have to give me a number, but you could put a number in the chat box, and Howard, perhaps you could arbitrate or just get some figures for me there. So whoever's got HMOs, whoever's done a com to resi or is thinking about doing one, put a number on the likely return that you can get for you, not for them, for you. What kind of return would you get? And then give me a shout, Howard, if you're getting any numbers.
I will do, yeah. Everyone's being a bit coy at the minute. Okay, I've got 10%.
10%, okay. So got
15%.
I feel like I'm an auctioneer now. I've got 10%
12
from
and 28.
I've got 15% from Howard at the back of the room.
I've got 20 to 30% here.
Right.
Yeah,
now,
20%.
So here's the point.
Biggest numbers.
All right, big numbers. But here's the point. If I'm getting less than 1 in cash or less than 5 in my investments, why isn't a queue of people beating down your door? to say, hey, I've got some money. I'd love for us to work together. I'd love for that to happen. Why isn't that happening? You know, what's the reason? And I'm looking for a single word or two words. Howard, what do you reckon? The two biggest words that are not there, and why this doesn't happen. When you crack the two words, it always happens. What are the two words? I'll take any one. We'll get them soon. You've got an erudite audience. They're not watching the tennis, right? They're here learning. So what are the two?
I've got building rapport.
Okay. Yeah. I don't mean
Trust.
Trust is number one. Trust is number one.
I'm not quite sure. Trust and aware. I'm not quite sure what award. Oh, sorry, awareness. Trust and awareness.
Perfect.
Opportunity, communication, win-win.
Perfect. You've got it. So, you know, I knew you get it, and that was like straight away. So it's number one is trust, and number two is awareness. I mean, hopefully you're now aware that there's a big problem, and I've been solving this problem for years, because this is where money is at. And one of the things that Seth Godin talks about in the book about being a purple cow is you have to operate and be outstanding in your niche. And I heard a lot of niches talked about tonight. A lot of people say what they did specifically, you know, HMOs and planning, I heard talk about, and many other things that I heard people mention. Now, be outstanding in your niche. Now, my niche is one of those things. And I'm going to take you on a journey through the big yellow door. See, I have found a way that I've been able to create businesses, multiple businesses, with multiple streams of recurring income in the areas where most people feel like it's a pain in the rear end. They don't like it. And I've found that to be true in the world of pensions. And I want to say why. I think it's fascinating. Don't hit snooze. Don't go and put the kettle on. Just, you know, listen out for this. The size of the pension pot in the UK. Don't worry if you haven't got one. Gabor looks like, well, I might not have a pension. That's fine. But if you don't have one, don't worry. The thing is, there's 2.2 trillion pounds worth of pensions out there. So there's no shortage of money. That's the size of the entire GDP. Now, I'm an economist by degree. GDP means gross domestic product. Basically, it's the turnover of the entire country. That's how big that pot is. And you only need a sliver of that to get all the money you could ever want. And the way to get it, first of all, is your awareness. Now, out there, people are in pain. They are confused, frustrated, and disconnected with money because it's do not disturb till 65. It's parked in a box. They don't understand it. They don't have a great relationship with that. And maybe it might even be true of one or two of you as well. And what I've found to be useful in the world where people are taking control now more than ever before is to help people understand language. And the language I teach them, and I heard Lisa mention it very briefly, is the language of SAS, or small self-administered scheme. Now, don't be put off by the language. You already know what an HMO is. Well, until you did, or until, you know, for the first time, you didn't know what it was, or ComTeresi, or airspace, or whatever. You know, so wealth is about learning new language. Now, I'm not going to try and help you be a SAS expert. I've been dealing with SAS since 2008 and have built up quite a lot of expertise also as a qualified IFA. So I know how these things work, but I just want to give you a little flavor that a SAS is a pension that gives you access to funding. It basically means you take the pension and you turn it into a trust fund. Now, I said I'd mention trust, didn't I? It's a trust fund. It's a bank account that you own, and you can do 3 things with it that are really important for you to understand, either for yourself or for other people. Number 1, you can turn that money into a bank account and buy stuff, right? So you could buy property. So if you're talking about doing certain types of property, and we'll get onto that, you can do all sorts of different property, from commercial to residential and so on, all sorts of different things. You can bridge, you can become a bank and you can become a lender. Interesting. If they can become a lender, who could they lend to? They could lend to you. And you can borrow your own money. So you build a tax-free pot and you can lend it to yourself. It's like getting the government to pay you to have a bank account that you lend to yourself. This is all in the world of SaaS. And that's an area of my mastery. So I have the cap that says I know how this thing works. And so does this guy, by the way, one of my clients, a guy called Mark Stokes, a corporate guy, now an experienced developer. Now, he said, Kevin, I was in the pension wilderness for 25 years. I used to get my statement, read it, wish it were better, and put it back in a drawer. 25 years it took him to build it. He works with us with his SaaS. He's a developer, and he's doubled his pension in as many months. And that's the power. Now, he's a developer and he's done all sorts of things, but you can do commercial to resi, shopping precincts. You know, you can do all sorts of different things. You could do some serviced accommodation, care homes, even some supported living, all sorts of different things you can do by owning and controlling your own money. But what's important to Mark now, we just did a raise for Mark, £2.5 million of other people's SaaS funds. Now, he's experienced. You may not be. But how do you get experience? You gain it, and then you build more connections. And I'm pleased and proud to be part of the key connections in Asana. Someone who's trusted, and thank you for that. And I will not let you down on this trust. I will show you how, whether you have a SaaS or don't have a SaaS, how you can get access to either SaaS for yourself or for other people's SaaSes. But in order to get access to other people's money, you must speak SaaS. It's a bit like going to France. You know, you've got to try the language. If you don't try the language, you're not going to get any progress at all. They hate you in Paris if you don't try. And Mark was so impressed with what he's done with his SaaS, he's now written 3 books on it. Well, at least one shared with somebody else, but and they're all available as well. And certainly we can send you SaaS pensions completely free of charge if you're interested in that. Anyway. My thing seems to have stuck. There we go. The bridge strategy. Remember I told you about buy, bridge, and borrow. This is the bridge strategy. Here's my client, Chris and Tracy, who I knew very well. Very cautious people. We moved their pensions into SaaSes, 2 of them together. So husband and wife, you can have up to 11 people. That's quite a big family, but this is just 2. They put their money into a SaaS, and this is one of my developer partners called Christopher, based in Newcastle. He had 150 rooms in his portfolio, and guess what? He'd run out of money. Yeah, 150 rooms probably cost him a few quid to get. And what happened? Well, a bridge happened, and Chris and Tracy got a 12% return on their money, first legal charge, because they loaned him a lot. Chris was getting 30% on his properties, so that's a win-win if I ever saw one. Because what would happen if the loan hadn't happened is nothing, right? So magic was created by being a receiver of the bridge. Now, I facilitated this. I could facilitate that for you. Now, the borrow strategy, 50% of the money at 1% over base. Now, base is 0.1. 1% over base is 1.1. Rounded up to the nearest quarter, 1.25. I don't know. I didn't hear anybody. I think Lisa said she was a mortgage broker as well. But if you can get a mortgage for less than 1.25%, go get it. It's the cheapest money I know to get, 1.25%. Okay, and that's basically how it all works. So it's a bit like a circle of money. You lend money from your SaaS, you lend it to your company, you make the payment, but in the meanwhile, you're getting access to it today to do something today with that money. And this is what the same guy did, Chris. He borrowed money from his SaaS, bought a 12-bed HMO, paid himself 1.5%, and got the income outside the pension. Now, I knew this was very important to Chris because he's got a daughter. That's the daughter there, Alex. Now, Alex has got cystic fibrosis, which means she leads a life like breathing through a straw, which is not great in a pandemic. And he wanted to make sure that he could have money now rather than waiting to give her a legacy, because sadly she won't live to a ripe old age. So this money, the profit that he made, is for her to have a property of her own. Now, what do you put on that one? That's kind of like a priceless ROI. And that's because, just as I think it was Susie was mentioning, we paid attention to people, listened to the problems, and found people that would trust us. And everybody was sorted, including Chris's daughter. So there are lots of reasons then why I think you might want to pay attention to other people's pensions, or if you're eligible, you've got a limited company, you've got some money in a pension you're not happy with, you could use for yourself. But if you haven't, people who have got pensions are at risk. So do they want to be at risk in the stock market and the ups and downs, or do they want to lend to the security and a great relationship with somebody like you? I don't know, but can you see why this happens? And what I found to be the case is most people who've got a pension, their pension's there for a long, long time. So the loan gets repeated and repeated and repeated. And Chris, real names, 9 loans. They did 9 loans together. So you don't need many private investors if you can find one to lend you 9 times, 9 different projects. Now I'm going to share with you how. Remember I said to you at the beginning, property starts with people. I'm going to share with you 5 ROIs that if you can master this, if there's one thing you take away from me, just one, is this. Learn 5 ROIs. Investors want 5 things. They don't want number. So if we go from 12 to 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and so on round, the primary thing they want is the return of their investment. They want safety. They want security. They want to know, how do you keep me safe? Well, all you got to do is tell them how you keep yourself safe. The second thing they want is knowledge. And I call that return on intellect. Then they want to feel connected. They want a strong sense of relationship. That's return on interaction. Now, those of you who do social good or environmental good or B1G1 or whatever you're doing, that's giving back to the world, some contribution to the wider world, that's a return on impact. And you'd be surprised how much people gravitate towards that. And then finally, they want the return on investment. Now, if you went to your bank manager and you offered them these 5 ROIs, which one do they want? Only one. They want the return on the money. If you go to a bridging company, which one return do they want? The return on the investment. Well, if you can deal with private investors and build a story that incorporates these things, and also incorporating the different wealth dynamics as well, so that you write your story as if you were talking to the dynamos and the blaze and the tempo and the steel, and you craft a document that deals with all 4 dynamics. Because if you just create a document, I'm going to share with you right now, just in your own image, you'll only attract people like you, and you miss out all the other 4 dynamics. And there are 3 documents to create when you're building funding with people: before money, during money, and after money. I'm not going to spend any time on the during and after. I'm just going to share with you quickly the way that I create documents or help people create their own documents in the before stage. Now, this is the most important, because this is where compliance comes in. Because if you create a document that just tells the story of your business, but you don't mention returns, you don't have an investment, you're not putting a deal, then you can craft that document as a way to start building that trust. And we call that document the 10 Pillars of Trust. And it's a template I've created and helped many, many developers get money. Now, it's just a template. It's not to be copied ruthlessly and rigidly. It's just meant to be a template. And I'll touch on some of those. We want the story. We want to know about the team and who are they. We want pictures of the team, because the blaze energy people want to see that. We want to see great pictures of the track record, because the The dynamos want to get that big picture and get a feeling. We want testimonials again, because that speaks to social proof and blaze. Touch points is what are you doing to engage with me? What's stage one? What's stage two? First we have a coffee. Then, you know, first you get the document, then we have a coffee, then we show you this, then we do that, and then we do this. That involves people. That's tempo. That gets people really thinking about participation. Now, I don't have time to go through all 10 points, but what I can do is show you some very brief examples, and I will do at your leisure. I'll send you a selection of 12 templates and some real live case studies of people who've taken this to heart and professionalized their fundraising in a way that gets the money time after time after time. And here's one. And this was all about heritage type buildings. Here's another one, which is simpler, but you can see that the theme there is saying, I'm building the company for the future and generating attractive returns. So the document is aimed at the investor. It's not aimed at just a faceless corporate brochure. It's talking about the investor. This is Mark Stokes, the guy who I mentioned earlier on, his document called Creating Shared Value. Right now, you can see what that means. I'm creating value, but I'm sharing it with who? With my investors. And you can see what they've done there is they've actually said specifically, and we deal with SaaS, and we know about SaaS, okay? And SaaS investment case studies. So they've not just gone into investment, they've gone into the niche of SaaS, and we can teach you how to do that. And there's a whole bunch of different things that, you know, that people do after, including, you know, we're doing a site visit where it was supposed to be 7th of July, but it's not now. It's going to be in a few weeks, but we'll have 40 investors in a project. And then if you attract other investors to come afterwards, what are they doing? Well, they're not investors in that project, but they're seeing other people investing happily. And therefore you're building your next line of investors just waiting to happen. Anyway, I've talked enough. There's loads of free resources. So if you want to know about SaaS, if you want to know about anything to do with SaaS, including free books, then if you want the templates as well, the 12 templates and 2 case studies I can send you, just send me an email to hello@wealthbuilders.co.uk. If you don't want to drop an email, just connect with me on any kind of social media, because what I'm trying to do is trying to see, Howard and Kathy, are there some of those purple cows in the room? I don't mean that horribly, but are there some outstanding people in the room who don't just want to raise money for themselves, don't just want to know how to do this, but want to know whether I can help them? So, number one, you could get a SaaS for yourself and get your own funds, turning your old frozen and forgotten pensions into money you can use. Number two, I can teach you how you can reach out to other people by creating your own document. Number three, you could work with me and I'll help you. So I'll not just teach you how to fish, I'll give you some fish too. And that's how the process works.